At the very outset, warm greetings to all who have joined this very important webinar organized by INAE, International Academy of Engineering. And in this webinar, we have one of the very distinguished guests INAE has invited, the Director of United States National Science Foundation, Dr. Sethuraman Panchanathan. So we welcome you heartily, sir.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I am honored to be here with all of you.
And INAE being one of the premier body for engineers and technologists in India is very much keen in particularly the collaborations and partnership. And the topic that you have chosen is perfectly suited to the cause of INAE and what activities INAE that currently taking up. And I'm very happy that the president of International Academy of Engineering, a very eminent person by his own right, Professor Indranil Manna, is here today. And without wasting much time, I would request Professor Manna to deliver the welcome address.
Thank you, Sivaji. And at the outset, I would like to again call a very warm welcome to Dr. Panchanathan. I don't think we have had an opportunity to meet each other, but I certainly read his resume with great interest. And we certainly are privileged today to have him with us, not just because he's the 15th director of NSF, but primarily because of his seminal contribution in computer science area. Dr. Panchanathan, on behalf of INAE, I would like to share a few words about, I'm not too sure how much you are aware of INAE. So we are the only National Academy of Engineering in the country. The reason why I use the only is because in India, there are 3 science academies, whereas for engineering, we have the unique character. So we are not a very old, not compared to Indian National Science Academy or Indian Science Congress Association, which are almost 100 years old. We are into our 34th year. So we were founded in 1987. But of course, engineering and technology constitutes one of the sections of all the science academies. But just like in US, you have National Academy of Sciences and also National Academy of Engineering. In India, too, we have science academies and engineering academies. Now, INAE essentially caters to promoting policies and activities primarily in the area of engineering and technology. We try to create policies and influence government decisions. We try to carry out certain activities on behalf of either government agencies or on our own. We are funded by, almost principally funded by the Department of Science and Technology, which is essentially the counterpart of counterpart of your National Science Foundation in India. Our mandate is to promote engineering and technology, various aspects. INAE has 10 different sections catering to the entire breadth of engineering and technology, starting from the conventional mechanical, civil, and likewise, we also have a division of interdisciplinary engineering, wherein we talk about whatever we can fit in one of the baskets. We have 4 major activities around the year, starting with the National Frontiers of Engineering, which essentially was inspired by the US Academy of Engineering's own similar activity called Frontiers of Engineering. Similarly, we have a youth conclave, we have an engineering conclave, and an annual convention. We try to inspire individuals. We certainly encourage and we recognize individual contributions. Election to fellowship is primarily through individual contribution. And we try to promote engineering enterprises all the way from school level to the senior most possible level. what it means is that we do have schemes to actually encourage the school students to write essays on specific themes of engineering interest, emerging areas. Engineering students participate in various competition and contests. We do award innovative student projects, which are part of their BTech or master's or PhD thesis. We have young engineer category below the age of 35. We have introduced a new fellowship called Abdul Kalam Fellowship, which is primarily to again inspire activities that would lead to engineering intervention in the form of a prototype or a model, or even actually something which could be branded as a successful technology. We do award entrepreneurship award. Of late, we also are very keen and proactive and pursue the affirmative principles in encouraging more women into our fold. Let me also share one other thing. I mean, I have never had an experience of interacting with NSF directly, but we are very glad and encouraged by your willingness to share the platform with us today and speak about foundational collaborations. So that certainly is what we are looking at. In 2014, December, I had the privilege of leading a team from Indian National Academy of Engineering to National Academy of Engineering USA in Washington, DC. And at that point of time, Dan Mort was the president. And we actually, and the foreign secretary at that point of time happened to be Professor V. Narayan Murthy from Harvard. We actually had very fruitful interaction. Our entire discussion was on grand challenges. And when we came back, we launched a program in India through the Ministry of Education called Imprint, Impacting Research, Innovation, and Technology. That's our answer of grand challenges that was propounded by the US. We said on a simple thing that the baseline of US or UK or Germany is not comparable with what we have in India. So US or a developed nation can afford to identify and pursue 14 specific challenges, whereas in India, we have to address to a much wider and a broader spectrum. So we created our own grand challenges and we called it Imprint. So the little interaction with INAE was very fruitful because the very next year, 2015, Dan Mort led a team and that came to India. I think quite a few of them, Mike Toole, and I remember Dr. Richard Miller. I think he's the head of the Olin College. And similarly, quite a few of them, Yortos. So they came and we had a 2-day interaction, and that was just preceding the launch of Imprint by the Prime Minister of India. So we are very keen, Dr. Panchanathan, and I don't want to take any more time, and we are all ears to listen to you. But let me assure you that if there is any room for closer interaction, be it sort of exchange of scientists or engineers or students or writing joint proposals, or simply come up with certain policy paper which can affect both the countries in engineering technology, we'll be more than happy to pursue them. So thanks again on behalf of INAE, and we would like to listen to you now. So Shivaji,
thank you.
Yeah, Shivaji, back to you for the formal introduction of the guest today. Shivaji, you're muted, Shivaji.
To avoid echo, I was muting myself. Yeah. Of course, our speaker today doesn't require any introduction, but still it is my privilege to introduce him. Dr. Sethuraman Panchanathan, Director, National Science Foundation, USA, is a computer scientist and engineer, and the 15th Director of the US National Science Foundation. Dr. Panchanathan was nominated to this position by the President of the United States in 2019 and subsequently unanimously confirmed by the US Senate on June 18, 2020. National Science Foundation is an $8.5 billion independent federal agency and the only government agency charged with advancing all fields of scientific discovery, technological innovation, and STEM education. Dr. Panchanathan is a leader in science, engineering, and education with more than 3 decades of experience. He has a distinguished career in both higher education and government, where he has designed and built knowledge enterprises, which advance research innovation, strategic partnerships, entrepreneurships, global development, and economic growth. Dr. Panchanathan previously served as the Executive Vice President of Arizona State University Knowledge Enterprise, where he was also Chief Research and Innovation Officer. He was also the founder and director of the Center for Cognitive Ubiquitous Computing at Arizona State University. Prior to joining National Science Foundation, Dr. Panchanathan served on the National Science Board as chair of the Committee on Strategy and as a member of the External Engagement and National Science and Engineering Policy Committees. Additionally, he served on the National Advisory Council on Innovation and Entrepreneurship. Governor of Arizona appointed Dr. Panchanathan as Senior Advisor for Science and Technology in 2018. He was also editor-in-chief of IEEE Multimedia Magazine and editor and associate editor of several international journals. Dr. Panchanathan's scientific contributions have advanced the areas of human-centered multimedia computing, haptic user interfaces, person-centered tools, and ubiquitous computing technologies for enhancing the quality of life for individuals with different abilities, machine learning for multimedia applications, medical imaging, and media processor designs. He has published close to 500 articles and has mentored more than 150 graduate students, postdocs, research engineers, and research scientists. For his scientific contributions, Dr. Panchanathan has received numerous awards, such as Distinguished Alumnus Award and the Governor's Innovator of the Year for Academia Award for his development of information technology-centric assistive and rehabilitative environments to assist individuals with visual impairments. Dr. Panchanathan is a fellow of the National Academy of Inventors, where he also served as Vice President for Strategic Initiatives. He is a fellow of the American Association for the Advancement of Science, the Canadian Academy of Engineering, IEEE, the Association of Computing Machinery, and the Society of Optical Engineering. It's a great honor, Dr. Panchanathan, to now invite you to take the center stage. Please.
Thank you, Professor Chakravorti. That's very, very kind of you to introduce me that way. Actually, what is most important is that we are all servants of our nations to make sure, and the global scientific community, to make sure that we really have an impact in order to advance, as Professor Manna was saying, that in order to advance the talent, the latent talent that is present all across our nations. And that's the most important service that we need to do, so that in turn can then translate to vibrant economic development as well as societal progress. So I'm going to share my presentation here, if you will permit me, and then we can take it from there. So, and then let me know if you're able to see my presentation. I'm going to put it in the presentation mode. Are you all able to see my presentation?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, so you're not seeing the presentation version, but you're actually seeing the full slides, correct? Sometimes they tell me that it works the other way. So
yeah, we are seeing the NSF logo.
Yes, good, excellent. And let me see if that okay. And you're able to see my, okay. Okay, that must have been because we were in the last slide. And so now let me go back to the first slide and then share it. That was a mistake of mine. Sorry about that. Okay, now you're able to see my title slide?
Yes, yes, yes.
Good, very good, excellent. So first of all, again, thank you so much to all of you for joining me today and inviting me to this amazing event that commemorates the 75 years of celebrating India's achievements. And I hear that this event is a very important event in the context of those celebrations. Truly, the scientific partnership with the US in those 75 years between US and India has benefited both our nations. And it also points to the tremendous potential that we have for the future. So clearly, as you have outlined, Professor Manna, India is a leader in scientific research and development in South Asia and a global leader in many fields such as chemistry, material sciences and engineering, agriculture, and water technologies. NSF is very, very proud to invest in a wide range of research with Indian collaborators and working with Indian agencies to co-invest in a variety of projects that are important to both our nations. And there are many, many examples of that. And I probably will walk through a few of them and also talk about and contextualize it to what it means for the future of our partnership and collaboration. In fact, currently, I was looking at the list of the projects that we are supporting with Indian collaborators. There's at least 160 active awards involving Indian institutions and scientists. And this represents more than 160 million in research investments. So to me, international collaborations like this are therefore very vital to the success of the global science and engineering enterprise. So what I wanted to do today was to share my vision for the future of fundamental research and innovation in the United States, and then highlight through that some of the exciting progress being made by NSF and our partners in these areas. I also want to, as I said, talk about the tremendous potential for enhancing research cooperation between the US and Indian science and engineering communities moving forward, especially in the areas that connect discovery-based research that impacts humanity and society. So in order to do this, I thought the best thing that I can start with is contextualizing the US and NSF vision. And so let me walk through that to start with. Okay. So let me move to the first one. Here what you're seeing, and you may or may not be familiar with the vision and mission of NSF. In 1950, NSF was formally established, but that was because of a visionary in Vannevar Bush post-World War II, when he actually said, how might we take the tremendous science engineering talent of the nation and the aspirations of the nation and contextualize it to what we might do for the future of economic and societal progress. And as he established the mission and the vision for NSF, he had these three basic components of the vision. The first component is, how do you promote the progress of science? How do you ensure that this agency, working with other agencies, advance the national health, prosperity, and welfare of the nation, and also at the same time, participate in this mission of securing the national defense? So these are the three simple components of the NSF mission and vision, which then essentially is articulated in this mission statement that I have presented here. Now, when I came to NSF about a year ago, I established what I thought are pillars of what the vision could be for the future, building on the mission and also building on the 7 decades of unbelievable progress that has been made by NSF, through NSF, all across the nation. You will all agree that NSF has unleashed unbelievable ideas and talent and therefore impact. In fact, NSF has made possible NSF investments have inspired and resulted in over 250 Nobel laureates of all disciplines, ranging from economics to physics to chemistry and others. So therefore, NSF has a huge role in terms of how it has unleashed the talent and ideas across the nation. And building on that vision, therefore, and mission over the last 7 decades, I thought that we should articulate that for the future. And the first pillar is advancing the frontiers of research into the future. And this is no surprise. No surprise, because all of us are aspiring to see how our national priorities, whether the Indian National Academy of Engineering or the National Science Academies, if you talked about the 3 of them, or the investment agencies in India, whatever that might be, also have similar aspirations. And as you rightly said, you are contextualizing the aspirations to what is needed for the nation, in this case, India. And like what we are doing for United States. And what that the partnership that we can therefore do for inspiring each other and therefore making possible unbelievable progress across the entire globe and humanity. And I will come and talk about this in a little bit more detail so that we can draw those things that we think can be potential partnership threads that we can build through those. The central pillar of the vision that I outlined is what I call ensuring accessibility and inclusivity. We have to make sure that we cannot leave any talent behind. This is something that I'm sure that we share in common as nations. That talent and ideas are not the property of certain states or certain urban areas, but it is everywhere. Everywhere across our great nations, every part of our great nations. Therefore, it is our responsibility to ensure that talent across the broad socioeconomic spectrum, as well as the broad geographic diversity of our nation, are inspired, motivated, nurtured, and brought to life. So we have a personal responsibility to do that. And I've outlined that we need to do that with this tagline that I talk about everywhere. And you will probably hear this through the presentation. I call it, we have to strengthen at speed and scale. Both of them. We have been doing a good job, but we cannot rest on our laurels. We need to see how we can accelerate progress, accelerate innovation, accelerate discovery, and therefore accelerate scientific and societal progress and economic impact all across our nations, as well as all across the globe. So this important imperative, and that's why I literally put it as a central pillar of the vision. The third pillar is securing global leadership. And I want to be very clear about what I mean by this. By securing global leadership, I don't imply that one nation is a leader and other are followers. Not at all. Not at all. What I mean by that is nations that share in values. Nations that subscribe to scientific values such as openness, transparency, reciprocity, research integrity, trust, and a whole lot more, as well as nations that share the aspirations that we all have for the advancement of the scientific community, society, and the economy. And how might we then partner and have the shared leadership imperative that we all are working together for the shared global leadership imperative. That therefore, securing global leadership really means how might we work with like-minded partners to unleash innovation and prosperity across the nations and the globe. And that these three pillars are then fundamentally made possible through this strong foundation of partnership. Partnership of every type, of every mode, of every kind. And I'm going to talk about this in greater detail soon. And that, when we are looking at this entire picture, that the spirit of innovation permeates everything that we do. Everything that we do inside the agency, and therefore making possible all across our nations. And therefore, this thread of innovation and innovative mindset is exceedingly important to inculcate, to inspire, and to permeate all across what we do as agencies, as therefore what we do with in partnership with other entities. Now let me walk you through a certain set of examples of what I mean by this. If you take the central logo of NSF as 7 decades of amazing achievements and performance that I talked to you about, let's walk through some of the things that we're going to underscore and emphasize and strengthen at speed and scale, while we're also unleashing new ideas and new programs and new frameworks so that we might accelerate at speed and scale new things that can happen that can accelerate progress. So let me give you some examples of that. If you look at the fundamental thesis of NSF, it's very clear. Curiosity-driven research is very unique to the NSF mission. This is something that NSF is known for as an exemplar, as an agency, because we make possible curiosity-driven, discovery-based explorations in all areas of science and engineering and technology. We are the only agency that does this across the nation. Of course, in specific areas, specific mission oriented, we do work in partnership with other agencies. And so when you look at this curiosity-driven discovery-based research, whether it is discovery of the recent, surface of the sun pictures that was, the front page of New York Times, that was picked up by one of our facilities, the DKIST facility in Mauna Kea in Hawaii, or whether it is innovations such as, and inspirations and discoveries such as the gravitational waves that was detected in 2015. And we're going to come and talk about some of this a little bit more. Curiosity-driven discovery-based research is the fundamental thesis of what NSF is all about and what NSF makes possible. And therefore, we want to see how we can scale that fast. And there are many, many examples of such innovations that need to be accelerated because there are so many ideas that sometimes we leave behind for whatever set of reasons. And we cannot, must not, should not do that. And in doing the curiosity-driven research explorations, how do we be more inclusive in our thinking? And I will come back to that point also. At the same time as we are embarking on that, we are also seizing emerging opportunities. This is a moment that we can even talk about it in crystal clear terms. For example, the COVID moment has shown us that we need to bring together all the scientific discoveries, explorations, and innovations so that we might then produce unbelievable, impactful, solution-oriented activities and then use the moment to see how we can prepare and be more proactive rather than reactive for future such events. How can we be more resilient? And I'm going to come and talk about this in a minute. Now, emerging opportunities are challenges which makes possible opportunities. As we all know, every challenge presents new opportunities to rethink, to innovate, to out-innovate. And therefore, there are many, many examples. Just on COVID alone, in the last year, we have probably invested in 1,100 projects to the tune of $300, $400 million of investments. But we're also doubling down because COVID has also had impact in terms of slowing down certain innovations because of the impact on human, challenges that people face in their daily lives. So we are investing, and thanks to the tremendous investment by the president, the Biden administration, as well as Congress, we are totally investing to the tune of $1 billion in terms of addressing the immediate need, in terms of what we need to do to help those scientists, those engineers, those undergraduate, graduate, postdocs, and other early career scientists to be able to unleash their ideas and innovations without being slowed down, and see how we can do this, particularly in disproportionately affected institutions as well as disproportionately affected individuals. How might we help them more? We have to do that. There are many examples of success stories here. I would not go into them in the interest of time. But let's talk about the third conceptualization. This is what we call the research centers. These are activities which brings together transdisciplinary groups of disciplinary experts within institutions across the nation, working in partnership with industry and other entities to be able to unleash not only curiosity-driven discoveries, but also use-inspired outcomes. There are at least 60 active such research centers currently in the United States, be it engineering research centers, science technology centers, material science engineering research centers, physics frontier centers, chemistry innovation centers, and a whole lot more. I'm going to talk to you about some examples of them too. Just last year, a few months ago, we essentially unleashed these 4 projects, the Engineering Research Center projects. Just as an example, look at the titles of these projects. If that cannot give you the commitment that we are making, and to the point that was made by the president, that we need to ensure that engineering is serving society through the grand challenge conceptualization. Here is an example. Every time the Engineering Research Center solicitations and the winning projects, you can see that they are committed to grand challenge objectives. So here is an example of the 4 that were the winning engineering research centers in the last cycle. Advanced technologies for the preservation of biological systems. Advancing sustainability through powered infrastructure for roadway electrification. ERCs for quantum networks, and ERCs for the Internet of Things for precision agriculture. These are examples of how to show that center conceptualizations are actually ensuring that we are tackling real world problems. But then that inspires more curiosity-driven research and fundamental research and basic research, but also those being then put to use in terms of how do you translate them into use-inspired solution outcomes, as well as economically oriented outcomes in partnership with industry. Now, such conceptualizations include, for example, other institutes that which we have started to launch more recently. When I came to the agency, when the AI program was being sort of put together for the first set of institutes launch, I said AI should be in every state of the nation. It's not and should not be reserved for a few locations in the nation. I didn't mean by that every state of the nation will participate in the same way. In some parts, it can be a K-12 inspiration. In some parts, it can be a community college inspiration. In some parts, it could be an industry inspiration, an entrepreneurial inspiration, research university inspiration. It doesn't matter, or a societal inspiration, but AI has to be in every part of the great nation because talent and ideas are everywhere. If we believe that talent and ideas everywhere, we have a commitment to ensuring that talent and ideas are inspired everywhere. So in the AI in every state paradigm, in the first 7 institutes that we launched last year, about the same time last year, we had 2 of them actually funded by US Department of Agriculture, called the National Institute for Food. And these were $20 million scale centers. 7 of them, 2 of them funded, co-funded, and the other 5 that NSF funded also had partnership with the Department of Homeland Security, Department of Transportation, etc. And that 7 centers essentially involved 20 states of the nation. In the cycle of AI projects that we released just yesterday, I strongly encourage you to go and check the list of the new 11 projects that we released yesterday. We, first of all, increased the AI institutes from 7 to 11. We had 2 more like last year, co-funded by USDA, but we also got other partnerships with other agencies, including industry. A consortium of industry, Intel, Accenture, Google, Amazon, funded a 1 full center, for example, in scale of participation at $20 million. So we are rapidly increasing the partnership speed so that we can unleash more institutes. And as of yesterday, when we unleashed the 11 more new institutes in the second cycle, the total of the 18 institutes between the first and the second cycle encompasses 40 states of the United States. And I'm waiting and eager for the third cycle to embrace all 50 states of the nation. Because AI touches, as you know, every aspect of what we do in the science and engineering community, whether it's agriculture, health, transportation, you name it, as well as the core AI innovations that we need to advance. But I want to assure you that advancing AI is not just a national effort. There's a great deal of collaboration and knowledge our 2 countries share in this area. Let me give you some examples. NSF co-led the drafting of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD's AI principles that the G20 nations, including the United States and India, adopted in 2019. And in 2020, NSF was pleased to join India as a founding member of the Global Partnership on AI, which is guiding responsible and human-centric development and use of AI. So I'm going to come and talk about my own participation in an AI workshop that US and India put together a little bit later. These are examples of how we are not looking at AI as rich and powerful as it should be in the nation, but also partnering with all countries across the globe that have similar shared interests and aspirations. Likewise, when you look at the next platform that we have launched in the last year is the National Quantum Platform. I said to the folks at NSF that the National Quantum Platform should be such that a 5th grader in rural Montana should be able to sign into the platform and get them inspired. As much as it's possible, a fantastic center in the University of California, Berkeley, using the platform to be able to advance their scientific discoveries, Nobel Prize quality discoveries, as much as an engineer working in Illinois, advancing discoveries that makes possible the next generation of quantum internet and so on. So this National Quantum Platform, and let me be very clear, when I'm talking about AI in every state or a National Quantum Platform, remove the word AI or the quantum words and substitute it to any other technologies of the future. That's how we should be thinking in terms of the inclusion of ideas and talent across our nations. And that's what I have said that we will do as NSF moving into the future. And that's how we will strengthen at speed and scale. Likewise, new conceptualizations. If this moment has taught us anything, as I said earlier, it is that we have got to be a lot more resilient to these kinds of unfortunate events that come about here and there, and how we might unleash ideas a priori to be able to mitigate, combat these kinds of challenges. Economic disruptions, societal disruptions, health disruptions, natural hazards-based disruptions to people's lives and quality of lives, whatever that might be. We have to build a much more resilient future. So I've challenged the agency to see how we might work across disciplines, whether it is the Computer Information Sciences and Engineering Directorate, or the Engineering Directorate, or the Mathematical Physical Sciences Directorate, or the Geosciences Directorate, or the Biosciences Directorate, or the Social Behavioral Sciences Directorate, exceedingly important, or our Office of Integrative Activities, or Office of International Science and Engineering. Whatever that might be, they all have to work together to be able to unleash this objective of resilience being something that we focus on intently and proactively find solutions. At the same time, biotech and bioeconomy, you all will agree, the future of synthetic biology is rich. The future of what is going on in terms of the great work, even these are Nobel Prizes. Again, all these Nobel Prizes on a yearly basis, it's so gratifying. At the same time, it's a point of pride because every one of those Nobel laureates have, their origins to some kind of an NSF-funded project early in the career trajectory, and or continuing investments that NSF is making on their ideas and discoveries, so that they might then build their ideas for outstanding, caliber innovations into the future. At the same time, we are working with industry, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit more in a few slides. Industry, so that we might translate those innovations rapidly at speed and at scale. And therefore, when you look at, for example, this last 1 year of what we have all gone through, or 18 months of what we're all going through, 15 to 18 months, what we're going through, it has shown us one thing, that universities and other K-12 systems have pivoted quickly from a face-to-face mode of operation, primary mode of operation, to a digital mode of operation. Yes, there are challenges, but we have also taken advantage of the learning innovations, technology innovations over the last several decades of investments made by NSF, other agencies, as well as industry and all across the globe, to be able to unleash those possibilities, frameworks, to make possible the amazing learning opportunities for everybody, everywhere. But then I say, if we have shown that it is possible, then that should redouble our efforts in order that we might then make possible high quality, instruction, high quality learning opportunities for anybody located anywhere in our nations. And therefore, we are doubly committing ourselves in terms of what we can do to do that, and also to see how infrastructures like broadband everywhere makes possible that reach that we need from infrastructure terms, in addition to ensuring that the learning modules are developed in a way that we can inspire talent everywhere. And so if you look at all of these bubbles that I've talked about, each one of them may look like a particular directorate is taking the lead. For example, I gave you the example of research centers. As you know, all directorates are involved. AI in every state. All of the directorates are involved. In fact, the trustworthiness, the ethics, the security, the privacy, all of this requires our social behavioral sciences to work not just after the fact, but as part of the evolution of the ideas. Likewise, quantum, resilience. Every one of these may look like they belong to a specific directorate. Resilience may be thought of as geo. Quantum may be thought of mathematical physical sciences. No. They really are a fusion and convergence of ideas. While we also unleash disciplinary and amazing discoveries, we are also doing this with the understanding that it is going to promote more cross-disciplinary collaborations, new areas of investigations, and new areas of design and building, the engineering of the future. And therefore, when you look at this, last but not the least, empowering society, the social behavioral sciences becomes a fundamental core of how do we look at the interwoven nature of social behavioral sciences, working with all of the other disciplinary sciences in terms of making sure that societally meaningful innovations are advanced into the future. These are but a few examples of what we're embarking on. On the first pillar, when I talked about, I said I will give you more details. These are but examples. There are many more. In the interest of time, I will not be able to talk about that. But that's what is essentially going to take NSF and strengthen its speed and scale as we are looking at this decade and the decades to come. And there is an urgency to do this. And you will all agree that that's what we're trying to do at NSF, but that's not alone enough. And now I say that now you need to attach to that these rocket propellants, the megatons of rocket fuel, to launch us even faster. And the first megaton of rocket propellant is what I call people. People. At the end of the day, it is by the people, for the people, of the people. We all know that. So therefore, we have to ensure that emerging talent is made possible, that new generations of talent across all communities is made possible, and that everybody feels inspired to be able to look at the wonders that are waiting to be discovered. And how do we make that possible? Clearly, where we are right now, I call them the missing millions. The missing millions of talent that are being left behind, and disproportionately left behind. For example, women not being proportionally represented, or Hispanic or Latino, Black or African American, American Indian, Alaska Natives. You can see that this has to be addressed immediately. At a minimum, we'll have to double the women and African American talent. And these are talent that is ready to be motivated and inspired all across our nation. So it is our responsibility to unleash that. Triple the Hispanic and Latino, or quadruple the American Indian and Alaska Native talent, or more. And that we will do that in partnership with many entities, and that we will make these possible because we are partnering with many different kinds of K-12 systems, or community college systems, or four-year college systems, or university systems, research university system, and other partners. So inspiring talent everywhere is an important motive, important objective. Our graduate research fellowship program, which is a crown jewel, if you want to look at it that way, of how graduate student ideas and talents are being recognized. Right now, we fund about 2,000 of them. I have said that we should be funding 20,000 or more of them, and not just 2,000. And so how do we scale there? And scaling through great ideas, and particularly focusing on those communities that are not being represented. Whether it's an NSF advanced program inspiring K-12 activities, or a tribal colleges, university programs, which inspires talent in tribal communities, or historically black colleges and universities being portals of enhancing talent, as well as Hispanic serving institutions. It's got to be all of the above. We have to work in partnership with all of the above. When I recently talked to the American Association of Universities, AAU, the top 69 institutions across our nation, the MIT, the Stanford, and others, I said that all the presidents and chancellors have to think about how they might embrace these kinds of institutions in their region, and not only ensure the success of their institutions, but also the success of the ecosystem. That's very true of India too. Having been a graduate of the IIT and the IISc, we cannot just sit in those ivory towers and think that that's the talent that comes there that alone needs to be inspired. Therefore, we should take that opportunity to co-inspire talent all across those regions, wherever they are in institutions, that those talents are coming through. It's our responsibility. It's our responsibility. Likewise, the APLU, the same comment I made to all the presidents and chancellors of Association of Public and Land Grant Institutions. Wherever I go, I keep talking about the need for institutions to take responsibility to not only the economic development of the regions, but also the talent, broad socioeconomic spectrum and geographic spectrum of talent. And that's very important as a methodology. And there might be opportunities to collaborate, to share ideas, to mutually inspire each other in these forms of activities. The next rocket propellant, megaton, is what I frame it as partnerships. As I said, partnership is a foundation of every type, of every kind, and I promise that I will come back and revisit that. We have many programs with partnerships. Partnership-based programs are with even foundations, like the Simons Foundation. The Math Bio program is with the Simons Foundation, a philanthropic foundation. Partnership with industry, of course. That happens both in indirect terms. What I mean by that is when we fund an engineering research center or an AI institute, the institutions that put that frame together include industry partnerships. That's what I call indirect partnerships. We have many programs, industry university a cooperative research center program, partnership for innovation program, engineering, all the centers program. We have the SBIR, Small Business Innovation Research, STTR programs, through which we work with industry partners. GoLead programs. I can go on and on and on. These are all programs at NSF that work intentionally with partnerships with industry, but actually worked up by our academic partners. So we fund. But we also are launching new kinds of programs. For example, I'll give you, there is a program that we said that it's called the Civic Innovation Challenge. This Civic Innovation Challenge is not where you fund an academic partner to work with a problem that is faced with the community, but instead flip the equation and say, we're going to fund a civic partner who is going to bring the appropriate academic partners together to solve a problem. Water, heat island effect, whatever that might be. So that we find more innovations driven by the need in the communities. So we're funding new programs like that through partnerships. Also, we are also now engaging in a broad-based, what I call direct partnerships. As I told you, the AI institutes essentially was made possible because of the fact that one of the additional institutes with the combination of industry that we talked about. Recently, we launched what is called the RINGS program, the Resilient and Intelligent Next G Systems program, that showcases how NSF is working with industry on big questions that will strengthen our national economy. RINGS includes a wide range of partners with major technology companies, IBM, Apple, Google, Intel, Microsoft, Nokia, Ericsson, Qualcomm, and VMware. It also includes other partners like the Department of Defense and the National Institute of Science and Technology. This is how when we start to build programs, we are pre-wiring these partnerships, I call them direct partnerships, so that we can co-leverage, co-invest, and see what we can do better for the nation. If you go back and look at NSF's announcement just in the last few months, you will see a number of programs that have birthed because of these partnerships. Just in the last 12 months, for example, since I have taken office, in the COVID times, I have essentially moved my chair from the left to the right and swung from California to Maine to talk to every industry leader, Google leaders, Microsoft leaders, Ford leaders. It doesn't matter which company they are. I'm talking to all of them to see how we might do better, how we might partner better, how we might pre-wire our ideas better, so that we might develop these unbelievable economic development ecosystems all across our nation. I'm not going to go through all of this. Power is another partnership that we have to unleash rural broadband in areas that rural broadband, pilot networks can be formed. So, as I said earlier, ideas and talent everywhere can be connected. Community College Partnership Program, CCIC. And I can go on and on in the interest of time. I'm going to say that partnership is a methodology of how we can advance the aspirations of all of us. CS for All, for example, which is fostering computational thinking and computer science skills for students from pre-K through high school. As I said, the Community College Innovation Challenge, where community college students across US are using science and engineering to design amazing new approaches to real-world problems. So these are partnerships at the national level. On international partnerships, again, so far I've been chairing the meetings of the science advisors all across the globe. Every month we meet. I'm so delighted that Vijay is participating from India as a chief science advisor to the Prime Minister. And so we talk about problems that we can work together on. Currently, the COVID problem, really the climate challenge problem is something that we need to work together on. I also participate very actively in the Global Research Council, and India is a partner again in that. How might we unleash unbelievable activities globally that we all can work together on? Whether it is a Quad partnership that is emerging between India, Japan, Australia. I was just talking to the Minister of Innovation and Higher Education in Australia just last week. Spent an hour with him, where he was asking how NSF could help, in terms of unleashing the innovation platforms that, that Australian universities can also, have similar mirror programs that can be helpful. So international partnerships everywhere. I constantly talk with our international partners. A couple of weeks ago, I was talking to the Chief Science Advisor of Canada and the NSERC, the Canadian National Science Engineering Research Council, signing the Memorandum of Understanding to do things together. I've been working with the UK, the Science Advisor, Patrick Valens, as well as UK RIs, Dame Orlean, Chief Dame Orlean, or Ireland, it doesn't matter. Japan, talking to all of these people to see how we can unleash more innovation at speed and scale. I'll keep repeating the speed and scale all across the globe. So on international partnerships, therefore, they can be powerful. You'll all agree, and that's why we're talking about this today. powerful platform for discovery and innovation. We have many great examples of how international collaborations between the US and India have powered breakthroughs in science and engineering. For example, rapid international collaborative research as one framing. Pandemic response, as we all know, has sparked thousands of new large-scale data projects around the world. These are essential for helping public health officials, government entities, and communities understand and respond to the COVID-19 pandemic. And through NSF's RAPID program, we were able to make sure these projects could happen quickly and contextualize them to various communities. One program NSF is investing is in the COVID data infrastructure builders project to create resilient and sustainable research collaborations. As part of the project, US and Indian researchers have responded with critical collaborations to support the pandemic response and understand its vast and differing impact on communities. So by understanding the complex dynamics of COVID, as I said, which is a platform that we're working on with Chief Science Advisors and the Global Research Council, this work will not only help us overcome the pandemic, but it'll also help create better resilience, as I said earlier, against future public health emergencies. That's one common topic that we are all interested in globally. And specifically with India, we're doing very, very good work. Our scientists are doing very good work. Again, on international environment research, the Partnership for International Research and Education program known as PIRE has supported a 5-year project that has worked to develop approaches to sustainability and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. For example, PIRE brought together 6 institutions in the US, 5 Indian institutions, and other international collaborations to advance progress in a wide range of goals, including economic development, water scarcity, environmental pollution, climate change, and public health. As the president said earlier, that we need to find those problems that both our nations feel compelled to work on, the grand challenges that we can converge on that are essential for both our nations to make progress and solve problems. Likewise, international ocean discovery. NSF and the Ministry of Earth Sciences in India are part of the International Ocean Discovery Program, an international marine research collaboration that was launched in 1995. This program, for example, began as a collective effort to better understand the historical development of the Indian monsoon, especially in the context of potential climate change, continental weathering, and erosion processes. So we have to make sure that breakthroughs and advances in all of these are exceedingly important as we think about laying the platforms and the foundations, new areas like AI and so on. So breakthroughs and advances in knowledge that began with that program, for example, are still happening today. So US and Indian scientists continue to work together to identify and improve our understanding of several geological paradoxes in the Northern Indian Ocean, home to some of the most spectacular tectonic processes on Earth. So the engineers, the scientists from India and the United States working together, and also working together with our industry that spans both India and the US. For example, when I was at Arizona State University, we built an unbelievable innovation campus in partnership with Infosys. Right? So there's a lot of that partnership. As much as Microsoft, Google, and others are in India, so are Infosys and other companies that are here too. And how do we partner with local universities here and there and develop this multi-way partnerships that we can do, as I said, bigger things, better things, faster. In spring, as I said earlier, I had the pleasure of participating in the launch of the Indo-US Science and Technology Forum's AI partnership. These partnerships bring together key stakeholders from government, academia, and industry to better understand how our two countries can work together to harness the power of this game-changing technology and create an AI component workforce in both the US and India. This is a tremendous opportunity for collaboration between our two nations, in addition to other areas. Opportunities like this can open doors for high impact collaboration at the nexus of AI and key areas, as I said earlier, agriculture, healthcare, and energy. And together we can grow our nation's economies, jobs, and health and wellness and prosperity. And I know that NSF and our sister agencies throughout the United States government were excited to hear that earlier this year when we were putting this together, and they also want to partner in this partnership to make it a multilateral partnership from an agency perspective. And so I know that we are going to do great things together. The last megaton of rocket propellant, before I lose time, is what I call translation. I've been putting a lot of effort into this, and therefore at NSF we're about to launch, and thanks to the President Biden, as well as the Congress, the Senate, and and the House, we've got total bipartisan support in terms of advancing our science aspirations into the future. I view, when I came in, I said the DNA of NSF, as I start to visualize and make it easy for people to see it, the DNA of NSF has two strands. On one strand is a curiosity-driven, discovery-based explorations. On the other strand is use-inspired, solutions-focused innovations. These two are not parts of a pipeline. That's a wrong notion. They're actually highly synergistic, symbiotic. Explorations make possible translations. Translations, in fact, make possible more explorations. You want examples of that? I can give you examples of that. Even things like the gravitational waves that I talked about earlier. The research to prove the theory of gravitational waves was talked about in the 70s. The LIGO detectors were completed in 1999, and that's what a translation activity. It was a set of things that was built to be able to see if we can detect gravitational waves, and sure enough, serendipitously in 2015, the gravitational waves were detected. But it didn't stop there. LIGO enables further explorations, black holes, and so on. At the same time, the explorations didn't stop, the translations didn't stop either. The enhanced quantum sensing capabilities came about because of the demand for greater sensing capabilities to do better science. And such quantum sensing capabilities then become, the basis for unleashing new industries of the future. So this symbiotic nature of translations and innovations, working together with explorations and mutually inspiring each other, is what the future is and what NSF has always been. And I have said that we will strengthen at speed and scale both strands of this. So thanks to, as I said earlier, the President and the Congress. We are going to be launching a new directorate of technology, innovation, and partnerships. I proposed that we will have this as a cross-cutting directorate that will leverage and energize all the directorates and make possible rapid translation, as well as building new ecosystems. We're going to talk about one example in a minute. Another example of this symbiotic nature of exploration and translation. In 1950s, we had several investments in economics and sociology research. The PageRank algorithm came about from the economics research, folks. And the digital library initiatives. There are two graduate students, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, who submitted a proposal in 1994 for the digital libraries initiative, which we funded. In 1998, in their annual report that they submitted, the final report, they said that they were forming a company called Google, and the rest is history, as you know. NSF makes possible these unbelievable. Qualcomm was an SBIR project of NSF. In fact, the SBIR program was created at NSF. The I-Core program, the entrepreneurial program that is unleashing unbelievable entrepreneurial talent across the nation by NSF a decade ago. Just 2 days ago, I talked about my own journey, having been an I-Core PI and having gone through the boot camp. And you're welcome to go into the web and read about that if you're interested. Phenomenal programs like that. So there are many, many exemplars, as I said, of these technology and innovation exemplars. I said some of that earlier. I-Core, SBIR, STTR, IUCRCs, PFI, Goldie. We came up with a new program recently called the Convergence Accelerator, solutions-focused inspirations of transdisciplinary projects working together for societal and economic progress, as well as engineering research centers as an example. As we're running out of time, I'm going to run through this. So building these innovation ecosystems, therefore, is truly a symbiotic partnership and a synergistic activity with industry partners, community partners, local government, and universities and colleges and K-12 and more. So we are now embarking on new programs in building innovation ecosystems in partnership with other agencies like the Department of Commerce. But we're going to be unleashing new regional economic innovation activities all across the nation, in every part of the nation. I've talked about this Bell Lab-like entities that to public-private partnerships where industry practitioners and academic researchers are fusing and working together, training the talent and coming up with ideas for the future of innovation. That will be everywhere around context. For example, in the states of Kansas, Iowa, Nebraska, Indiana, and Illinois, what better place to have a living laboratory around the smart agriculture, the agriculture of the future. So context-based, place-based innovation ecosystems that we will start to launch. And I've started to talk about how we can do this in partnership with many, many agencies. Clearly, we have common threads of interest in ideas, methodologies, goals and aspirations, and most importantly, shared values. And therefore, I have just half a minute. I want to say that this partnership between India and the United States is something that is a rich partnership potential, and we can work together in addition to all the framings that we've already put together in light of all that I've talked about in terms of what NSF is trying to do as we embark into the future. So with that, thank you so much for all your time today, and really appreciate you paying attention to this presentation. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that I hopefully can actually see the folks that are here and engage with them if you have any other things that you want to say.
Thank you, Dr. Panchanathan. Thanks a lot. And before we proceed further, I have one small question. How much time we can have for a question and answer? How much time you can give?
Well, why don't we keep taking the questions, and if I have to leave, I'll definitely let you know.
Okay. So I would request the host that please, enable the participants so that they can ask the question. And I will request participants that please be brief and to the point and ask the questions. If you tell us, then we will. Yeah, Professor Pandit, you want to ask a question?
To start with, I just wanted to compliment him on an excellent lecture giving an entire X months. And I was just wondering, how does it fit with the new education policy which the government has come out with in terms of collaborative efforts? I don't know whether Dr. Panchanathan is aware of the new education policy. And if he is, then would he mind commenting on the possible synergy between the role of NSF and the way they have gone forward, and how does it compare, or how does it complement the new education policy, if at all?
Yeah, it's very interesting. Thank you, Pandit, Professor Pandit, for bringing up the question. The Indian ambassador to the United States and I have had a few interactions in the last year, as well as with Vijay, as well as with the other folks that from the Indian side. I'm very well aware of the education policy and the aspiration for an NRF like conceptualization that India is thinking about, and we have talked about how. I know that they have talked about how NRF can emulate some of the NSF-like thinking in the building of the NRF, and I have offered my collaborative support in terms of whatever NRF as it's building NRF. What if people want to come and look at what NSF has been doing and see what we can do in terms of exchange of ideas, people, etc., to help motivate that. So I know that the Office of Science, Technology Policy and the current administration, in fact, the Secretary of State, Tilkan was there just, I think, 2 days ago, again, emphasizing, underscoring the importance of the partnership. So I'm sure there are opportunities that was there with the Foreign Minister, Jay Shankar, who was visiting just originally. And I mentioned to the minister that, this is something that we should definitely see what we can do together in the light of this bilateral partnership and the Quad partnership. So the answer to your question is absolutely yes. What can we do together? Because two democracies having similar aspirations, similar values, we can find a lot to work in common. We should see how we can inspire each other.
Thank you.
Thanks, Era. We also have the chairman of, just a minute, Mr. Dr. Bhola Gurjar. We have the chairman of AICT, All India Council for Technical Education, Professor Anil Shastra-Buddhe with us. Professor Shastra-Buddhe, anything from your side? Can you hear us, Professor Shastra-Buddhe? Anyway, I think he's on. Okay, Dr. Gurjar, you please.
You are muted, by the way. We are unable to hear you.
Oh, thank you. Sorry. Thank you for this very insightful seminar and webinar, Professor Panchanathan. My question, let me introduce you briefly. I'm Bhola Gurjar from IIT Roorkee. I work on environmental engineering issues. My question is, because there is a lot of debate between merit and justice or social justice. Also talked about equity and participation of a variety of communities. How to strike the balance between merit and the social justice? That's a pertinent and important question. Everywhere debate goes on, whether it is through reservation or through this equal opportunity, or there are various ways. I would like to see your views on this. Thank you.
Excellent question that you asked. This is a very important question. The way I can only talk about United States and how we are dealing with this, and hopefully that provides a model. I have some understanding of India, but since I've been out of India for more than half of my life now, I don't want to pretend that I know. So I just want to be very careful of how I talk about, India. So therefore, from the United States perspective, I came from an institution that essentially, as part of its fundamental mode, said access and excellence can coexist, and in fact not coexist, can actually prosper and thrive and mutually reinforce each other. As a public institution, we have attracted talent and not denied the talent the access by having these artificial cutoffs. Because how can you have a cutoff for a kid who comes from a single parent family or who has worked 3 jobs to support his family as a high school student? How can you compare that with a parent who has essentially put their kids in Kumon or whatever the programs are to motivate that student? How can you even say that this A plus and that B are even not equivalent? I mean, this is our own fabric of, we have created all of this. And so we have shown that when we accept kids from a broad demographic and give them the opportunity, I believe that the institutions of higher education is not here to take the diamonds and polish them and send out as better diamonds, but take rocks and mix them as diamonds. That's our job as higher education institutions. I'm telling you, I'm very, very firm about this. Having said that, I do understand and appreciate the importance of IITs and other fantastic institutions and their mandate. We need that too. But this is why I said, when I talked to the AAU presidents and chancellors, as well as APLU presidents and chancellors, I said, you in great institutions, I know that your cutoffs may not allow you to accept those students. I agree with that. That's okay. We're not trying to change that. But what we can, however, do is that you can partner with institutions that are accepting those students and see how they can also benefit. And when I look at least the last time I checked in India, most of the teachers in these institutions that these students end up going to are taught by fellow undergraduate professors. There's undergraduate students as professors. How can that be? How can you have research inspirations for these students when they don't have a research faculty teaching them? I mean, you can see that this really, bothers me. So if I've not indicated that with my theatrics here. So I'm telling you, this has to change, because this cannot continue. Because if you're looking for national prosperity, if you're going to leave 90% of the talent behind, shame on us. Shame on us for them complaining that we are not able to progress and compete globally. It is not the fault of people. The talent and ideas are everywhere. They are democratized. I just wrote an article on democratization of talent, and you can go check it out. It is something that I deeply, deeply care about and passionate about. And I can tell you, as long as I'm director of NSF, I've got the support of the fantastic administration, Biden-Harris administration, and the fantastic Congress that we have on both sides of the aisle. I have unanimous support in making sure that we are going to bring out this talent at speed and scale, and we're going to work hard at it. We're going to work hard at it, and this will be done. This will be done.
Yes, now Professor Shastrabuddhe. Professor Shastrabuddhe, you are unmuted now. Can you hear us, Professor Shastrabuddhe? Now you are unmuted. Please go ahead.
Sivaji, there was one Mrs. Sain, Sushmit Sain or Sumit Sain, who raised his hand. So,
yeah, actually, Professor Shastrabuddhe texted me. That's why I just asked him. But I think there is some issue. Yes. Now let me see.
If he's able to text you, ask him to text the question, and then we can handle it.
Yes. Now let me see. Yeah, Sumit Sen. Yeah, please, Sumit Sen.
Hi, I'm Sumit Sen. We are trying to set up, we already have a lab in geospatial information. We basically want to do something what you're saying, take it from IIT Bombay to the spokes, the regional colleges. And I wonder if NSF has some model. We have done workshops with Indo-US Forum, but what we want to do essentially right now is move into the regional part. Geospatial information science is something that affects everyone, and there is a tremendous capacity for training and self-empowering. So I would like to know your thoughts on that.
Yeah. Oh, excellent question, Sumit. What we're trying to do at NSF is trying to promote collaborative programs. For example, in the AI institutes or in engineering research centers, we want to make sure the partnerships with historically black colleges and universities, or we call them the minority serving institutions, MSIs, which includes the HSIs, Hispanic serving institutions, historically black colleges and universities, as well as tribal colleges and universities are part of these programs. So we then include talent, the faculty members being part of the team so that they can then start to get inspired. I'm also motivating, I'm requesting this of all the presidents and chancellors because the work happens in the institutions, to have broadening participation offices that then can connect on specific partnerships with the group of institutions that they take responsibility for raising the quality and talent of the faculty, as well as providing students with internship opportunities and project opportunities. So we have to do everything possible in curriculum development, curriculum sharing. Even in this day and age, you can actually offer lectures virtually, and even if you appear once or twice a year physically and go shake the hands of these kids, you would have inspired unbelievable generations of talent. I'm telling you, if there is a will, there is a way to it. It's just that we have to be creative. After all, I thought the last time I checked, I thought that scientists and engineers were supposed to be creative people, and I'm sure we can solve this problem creatively. How can we even say that we can solve climate challenge if we cannot solve this challenge? I'm sorry, I'm being very harsh, seemingly, but I'm harsh on myself at first before anything else. So my comments are directed at myself in terms of how do we. I get up every day in the morning and I'm asking, we need to do a lot better. We need to do a lot better. And we have to work with it every day. Okay, I silenced everybody, Sumit.
No,
Thank you.
Shivaji, can I just raise a point here?
Please, Professor Manna.
So excellent talk, Dr. Panchanathan. Certain things, when someone says from a different angle, it actually reaffirms your own belief. For example, you said that talent cannot be concentrated only in geographical locations, and it will be absolutely, we have to look around and then give opportunities so that we can harness the talent all over. And we are a 1.3, 1.4 billion nation. And this is one of the biggest challenges. First of all, how to empower the population if we really want to harness the demographic dividend. And then at the same time, create sufficient infrastructure so that they can reap the benefits of, call it the new education policy or the research foundation that we are talking about. So one difficulty we always face is that whenever we talk of international collaboration with the developed nation, and I want to be very candid about it, Government of India for the last 10 years, at least I would say, would have spent a lot of money, has really created various new schemes. And I'm saying not just from or through DST, Department of Science and Technology, but also through, for example, Indo-US Science and Technology Forum. I also was part of it until recently. But the crowd always is more towards the West, and the West showing interest to come and engage with say, for example, India or other emerging technology powerhouses in the East. Could you give us some clues as to how we can make it more attractive for the established and eminent technologists and engineers from US, from anywhere not necessarily only US, I'm saying from Europe, from other places. Even Ministry of Education has schemes like Spark, where we actually pay $10,000 a month or $15,000 a month. I mean, for this, all other expenses paid. It's just an honorarium. All I'm saying is that may not be a very fabulous, but is a decent enough honorarium. And yet we probably are not able to attract the talent as much as we wish to do. So would you like to make any comments as to how this interaction can be more on equal footing?
Professor Manna, you know this, as researchers ourselves, we gravitate to people that we respect, our fellow researchers that can actually enrich our own research goals and programs. So therefore, like-minded researchers is what we all seek. So that we do at an individual level. So Professor Manna, you will say, I know this individual in Arizona State or wherever it is, and I want to work with that individual. In order to make that possible, there are 2 or 3 things that need to happen. One is frameworks that allow the partnership to be facilitated in a sustained manner, not just a one-off kind of a thing, but a sustained manner. And this is where I think agencies partnering with one another can make possible these kinds of collaborations that, PI to PI collaborations. And in this day and age, Professor Manna, we have learned, and this is a good example, we are having a solid interaction between you and us here with 12.5-hour time difference seamlessly happening. So today, technology provides for people not having to physically even come and spend a month or a few weeks, but actually have it on a weekly basis for half an hour or an hour, where they are mutually inspiring each other's students as well as their own ideas. And therefore, it is possible in this technological realm to do this. So how do we facilitate that is through, first of all, what might we do between agencies to pre-wire around teams where we can have these individual collaborations energized. 2, at the same time, as I was saying, how might we work on common problems of interest? Let's say climate change or AI or agriculture, it doesn't matter what it is. We pick teams that we can work together where we can bring groups of researchers from the Indian side and the US side, again, virtually connected even more regularly than physical connection happens once in a while. Travel, the cultural differences, time differences, people being busy, all of this precludes people to commit a certain amount of time to either come there or here on both sides. And therefore, this might be something can promote more ongoing collaborations. And I've talked about at NSF launching a new framework called the Global Research Centers. How might we have co-invested global research center ideas where the Indian side funds the Indian researchers, US side funds the US researchers, but then we have a pre-agreed I think I lost you. I lost you for a moment. What I was saying is that I just was going to mention this number. India is the largest number of students who come from India, second largest, I think 190,000 students came. And to me, I say that, these students are tremendous ambassadors of how we might bridge the talent and ideas between the two countries. So there are many facets, but I always repeat these 2 words, intensity and intentionality. That is lacking. Right? We have all of these frameworks that can be put together. But if you wake up every morning thinking about this, that is intensity. And if you start to talk about this and put the frameworks together with intentionality, both of them are important. And I don't think we are at that level of intensity and intentionality. Despite all our good intentions, we are not there. And therefore, I think we need to do more on that front. And that's where I think the current collaborative framework that is happening between US and India can be tremendously beneficial. And you all, I think, should see how you can motivate the leadership at the ministry level, at the prime minister, at the other levels, at the academy levels, how you can all team together and see how we can develop bilateral and multilateral partnerships that actually has outcomes, not just signing MOUs. I've always said, even in my previous job, MOU should be where, oh my God, we cannot do this anymore without an MOU. Not the first thing that we do and celebrate and then start to have a ceremony. That's a waste of time in my view. I refuse to sign MOUs if they don't have already working things that have come to a point where it needs that. And so I know there are a few more questions. I have to run, unfortunately, and I have abused. Do that. I hope you'll all forgive me, and it was good exchanging this with you. I know there was one gentleman, Anil, who said that?
No, there is
Subir Kumar Chowdhury has been saying that my question is not being answered. So Subir, if you send the question over to my folks will be happy to do it asynchronously.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Thank you so much, Professor Chakravorti and Professor Manna, and to the rest of you. Appreciate the interaction and look forward to a strong partnership. And you can count on me to see how we can work with the Office of Science, Technology, Policy, Department of State, and other agencies all working together to find a good platform.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you very, very much.
Thanks a lot for giving so much time. Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, Professor Manna. Thank you, Professor Sivaji.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, I convey my sincere thanks to the esteemed audience for joining this program. Thank you very much. Stay healthy.
Thank you. Manna, for a very nice program. Thank you.